Welcome. Take a deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs, slowly then release it just as gently. You've stepped into a quiet space of growth, a sanctuary where the noise of the day begins to fade into a soft, steady hum. Tonight, we are going to explore the beautiful, quiet science of the mind, specifically how we can nurture our intelligence and our habits as we drift toward sleep. We often grow up believing that intelligence is like a stone, solid, heavy, and fixed in place from the moment we are born. We think we are either smart or not, creative or logical, as if our potential was carved into us before we ever had a say. But the truth is far more gentle and far more hopeful. Intelligence is not a stone, it is a garden. And like any garden, it is capable of growing, changing, and flourishing, provided it is given the right environment and the right care. Even as you lie here, perfectly still, your brain is a landscape of incredible activity. Within the quiet folds of your mind, there are roughly 86 billion neurons. It is a number so vast, it feels almost celestial, like the number of stars in a distant galaxy. But the true wonder lies not just in the number of these cells, but in their reach. Each one of those 86 billion neurons is capable of forming thousands of individual connections with its neighbors. This creates a web of communication so complex and so intricate that it surpasses the most advanced computers ever built. As we begin this journey together through the science of a sharper mind, I invite you to settle deeper into your pillows. If you find that this quiet atmosphere and these gentle truths help you find the rest you need, please feel free to subscribe and like this video. It is a small way to join our community and ensure you can always find your way back to this peaceful place of learning. Your support is deeply appreciated, but for now, your only task is to listen and let your heart rate low. The sheer scale of your internal world, those billions of neurons and trillions of connections, is the foundation of everything you are. But what is most exciting is that this foundation isn't permanent. It is shifting. The idea that our brains are hardwired is a myth of the past. In reality, the brain is remarkably soft, remarkably fluid. It is constantly rewriting its own story based on what you do, what you think, and how you live. This brings us to the very heart of how we grow, the science of change. We are not stuck with the mind we had yesterday. Every sunset and every sunrise offers a physical opportunity for our brains to become something new, something slightly more refined. To understand how we can cultivate this garden of the mind, we must first look at the remarkable process that allows the brain to physically reshape itself from the inside out. This quiet, constant ability of your mind to reshape itself is a process scientists call neuroplasticity. It is the brain's way of being fluid, like a river that gently carves a new path through the earth over time. For a long time it was believed that once we reached adulthood, the map of our brain was finished, that the roads were paved and the borders were drawn, but we now know that the brain is much more like a living, breathing landscape. Every time you learn a new skill, think a new thought, or even practice a small, quiet habit, you are physically changing the structure of your mind. Think of it as a series of delicate bridges being built between those billions of neurons we mentioned. When you repeat an action, that bridge becomes stronger, wider, and and easier to cross. This is why things that feel difficult at first, like playing a new instrument or learning a new language, eventually become second nature. You have literally built the infrastructure for that knowledge. The more you travel a certain path of thought, the more permanent and effortless that path becomes. But growth isn't just about adding, it's also about refining. Your brain is a masterful editor, always seeking balance and efficiency. Through a process called synaptic pruning, your mind identifies the connections that are no longer being used and gently lets them go. It's as if the brain is a gardener, clearing away the overgrown weeds to make sure the most important pathways have all the energy and space they need to thrive. This pruning makes your thinking more efficient and your reactions more precise. It is not a loss, but a beautiful form of streamlining, ensuring that your mental energy is spent on what truly matters to you. It is the brain's way of keeping itself organized and ready for the next phase of life. This means that every small habit you choose to cultivate is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you choose to be patient, or when you spend a few minutes in quiet reflection, you are physically reshaping the map of your identity. You are telling your neurons which paths to keep clear and which ones to let fade back into the landscape. Even as you lie here, relaxing and listening, your brain is processing these ideas, deciding how they fit into the story of you. There is a profound reassurance in this science. It tells us that it is never too late to learn, to change, or to grow. Your brain remains plastic, remains capable throughout your entire life. The garden of your mind is always ready for a new seed to be planted, and the soil is always rich enough for something new to take root. You are never truly stuck. You are always in a state of becoming. As we consider this internal world of shifting connections and quiet growth, we must also look at how our environment influences this process. Our brains do not exist in isolation. They are deeply tuned to the rhythms of the world outside. To help our neurons form the best connections possible, we have to look at the signals we give them from the moment we open our eyes. The most powerful signal our brain receives, the one that sets the tone for every connection made throughout the day, is the arrival of the morning light. Imagine the very first light of dawn as it begins to filter through the window, a soft and silent arrival that carries a profound message for your mind. This light, though it may seem gentle, is one of the most powerful tools your brain has for optimizing its own intelligence. When the specific wavelengths of morning light, rich in what scientists call blue light, enter your eyes, they travel along a specialized pathway directly to a tiny but vital region of the brain called the hypothalamus. This area acts as the master conductor of your body's internal symphony, and the morning light is its baton. As this light reaches its destination, it triggers a natural and healthy release of cortisol. While we often think of cortisol in the context of stress, in the morning, it serves a beautiful and restorative purpose. It is the brain's way of gently turning on the lights in every room of your mind. This morning, pulse of cortisol increases your alertness and sharpens your brain's processing speed, preparing your cognitive gears to turn smoothly as the day begins. It is as if the morning sun is providing the first bit of fuel for your thoughts, clearing away the lingering fog of sleep and inviting your neurons to begin their daily work. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine that warmth spreading across your skin the way the world slowly regains its colors in the early hours. This synchronization between the light outside and your internal state is what sets your circadian clock. This clock is an ancient biological rhythm that governs almost every process in your body, from when you feel hungry to how deeply you will sleep later tonight. When we align ourselves with this natural cycle by seeking out that morning light, the benefits for our intelligence are remarkable. Scientific studies have shown that proper circadian alignment, simply being in tune with the rise and fall of the sun, improves our ability to retain new information. It strengthens the pathways of memory, making it easier for the brain to store what we learn and retrieve it when we need it most. Furthermore, this alignment is a cornerstone of emotional regulation. A brain that is in sync with the light is a brain that can more easily navigate the complexities of the day with a sense of calm and perspective. It allows the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our highest reasoning, to remain in steady control, helping us to respond to the world with wisdom rather than just reaction. This light is a gift from the environment to our internal architecture, a signal that tells our 86 billion neurons that it is time to begin the dance of connection once again. It reminds us that our intelligence is not just a product of what we do, but also of how we live in harmony with the world around us. By simply allowing the morning sun to reach us, we are giving our brains the clarity they need to function at their very best. But as the sun rises higher and the signal for alertness is firmly established, the brain begins to look inward for the physical resources it needs to sustain this activity. While the light provides the timing and the rhythm, the actual machinery of your thoughts requires a constant, quiet supply of life's most fundamental element. Just as a garden needs more than just the sun to grow, the intricate network of your mind requires a deep and steady source of nourishment to keep its connections fluid and its energy high. To understand how to truly nourish our capacity for thought, we must look at the very substance that makes up the majority of our being. Consider for a moment the physical nature of your mind. While we often think of the brain as a complex computer made of solid wires and intricate circuits, its reality is much more fluid, much more like a quiet, deep pool of water. In fact, your brain is approximately 75% water. It is a delicate, moist environment where every thought, every memory, and every flicker of imagination occurs within a liquid medium. When we sleep through the night, our bodies naturally lose hydration through our breath and through the subtle warmth of our skin as we rest. By the time the sun touches the horizon and we open our eyes, our brains are often in a state of quiet, invisible thirst. Science tells us that even a very small decrease in our hydration levels, as little as a 2% drop, can have a measurable impact on the physical structure and performance of the brain. Research has shown that such a minor deficit can lead to a slight shrinkage in brain tissue, which in turn causes our reaction times to slow and our mental focus to dim. This isn't a cause for alarm, but rather a gentle reminder from our bodies to care for the vessel of our consciousness. That familiar feeling of brain fog we sometimes experience in the morning is often just the brain's way of asking to be replenished, to be brought back to its full hydrated capacity so it can function with the clarity you deserve. Imagine then the simple grounding act of drinking a cool glass of water in the early light of the day. Feel the crispness as it touches your lips, the refreshing path it takes as it moves through you, waking up your internal systems. As you take those slow, deliberate sips, envision your cognitive gears beginning to turn with newfound ease. It is as if you are watering a garden that has been waiting patiently through the dry night. This water is the lifeblood of your intelligence. It allows the 86 billion neurons we spoke of earlier to maintain their shape and communicate with speed and precision. Water is far more than just a lubricant for our cells. It is a fundamental requirement for the very chemistry of thought. It is essential for the production of hormones and neurotransmitters, those tiny chemical messengers that carry information across the gaps between neurons. When the brain is fully hydrated, these messengers can travel their paths without obstruction, ensuring that our mood remains stable, our memory remains sharp, and our ability to learn remains open and vibrant. It is the medium in which the electricity of our thoughts travels most efficiently. But as we restore the fluid balance of our minds and feel the clarity return, we also begin to feel the first stirrings of a different kind of need. While water provides the environment for our thoughts to flow, the brain is also an incredibly hungry organ, demanding a constant, high-quality supply of energy to maintain its complex architecture and keep the fires of curiosity burning. To truly support our intelligence as the day begins to unfold, we must look not only at the water that sustains us, but at the specific nutrients that act as the premium fuel for our neural engine. Just as the morning light sets the rhythm and water provides the flow, the food we choose becomes the very building blocks of our mental strength. Consider for a moment the sheer industry of your mind. Even as you rest here, drifting closer to sleep, or as you move through the quiet start of a day, your brain is a hive of activity. It is a remarkable fact of biology that while the brain accounts for only about 2% of your total body weight, it consumes a staggering 20% of your body's total energy. It is a hungry, vibrant landscape that never truly goes dark. Even when the rest of you is still. This energy is fueled primarily by glucose, a simple sugar that acts as the primary currency for your thoughts. Every memory you recall, every problem you solve, and every dream you weave requires a steady, reliable supply of this vital fuel to keep the 86 billion neurons communicating in harmony. When we think about a smart breakfast, we are really thinking about how to provide the most stable environment for our cognitive functions. There is a profound difference in how our brains respond to different types of fuel, and understanding this can help us maintain a sense of calm focus. Imagine the difference between the sudden bright flare of a match and the long, steady glow of a hearth fire. When we consume simple sugars or highly processed foods, we experience a rapid spike in blood glucose. For a brief moment, the brain feels a rush of energy, but it is almost inevitably followed by a sharp decline, a sugar crash that can leave us feeling irritable, distracted, or mentally exhausted before the day has even truly begun. Instead, your brain thrives on slow-release energy. Complex carbohydrates, such as those found in steel-cut oats, ancient grains, or fiber-rich fruits, break down slowly and deliberately during digestion. They provide a gentle, consistent stream of glucose to your neurons, allowing your focus to remain sharp and your mood to stay balanced for hours. It is like providing your mind with a reliable rhythmic heartbeat of energy, ensuring that your mental processing speed remains fluid and calm, rather than erratic. But energy is only one part of the equation for a healthy, intelligent mind. To maintain the very architecture of your intelligence, your brain requires specific fats that it cannot produce on its own. These are the omega-3 fatty acids, often called the essential fats, because they are fundamental to our neural health. Think again of those billions of neurons. Each of these cells is wrapped in a protective membrane, a thin, flexible wall that controls how information is received and processed. Omega-3s, found in abundance in simple, earthy foods like walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds, are the primary building blocks of these membranes. When your diet includes these healthy fats, your cell membranes remain fluid and receptive. This allows neurotransmitters to pass through more easily, facilitating faster communication between different regions of the brain and supporting the overall health of your gray matter. There is something deeply satisfying about the thought of these tiny natural ingredients, the simple earthy crunch of a walnut or the subtle nuttiness of flax seeds, physically reinforcing the structures that allow you to think, feel, and remember. You are quite literally building a more resilient, more flexible mind with every mindful choice. As the body begins to feel nourished and the brain's energy levels stabilize, a sense of quiet readiness often takes hold. The physical needs of the machine have been met. The water has been restored, the light has set the rhythm, and the fuel is being steadily processed. Now, the focus shifts from the biological to the psychological. Just as we have fueled the engine, we must now clear the dashboard. Before the complexities of the day begin to crowd in, there is a beautiful, quiet habit that allows us to sweep away the lingering shadows of the night and prepare a clean slate for the hours ahead. We move now from the fuel in our bodies to the clarity of our written thoughts, preparing to clear the workspace of the mind. Imagine yourself sitting at a small, quiet desk, perhaps with the steam still rising from a cup of tea. The house is hushed, and the world outside is only just beginning to stir. In this stillness, many find a profound sense of clarity through a simple, ancient habit, the practice of the morning pages. This is the act of long-form, stream of consciousness writing done by hand shortly after waking. It is not intended to be great literature, nor is it meant to be read by anyone else. Instead, it serves as a gentle brain dump, a way to move the swirling thoughts of the night and the anxieties of the coming day out of the delicate tissues of the mind and onto the physical page. There is a specific biological reason why writing by hand is so effective for this mental clearing. Deep within the brainstem lies a network of neurons known as the reticular activating system, or the RAS. This system acts as a sophisticated filter for the brain, deciding which pieces of information among the millions of sensory inputs we receive are worth our conscious attention. When you pick up a pen and begin to form letters on paper, you are engaging in a complex motor task that signals to the RAS that what you're doing is important. By physically writing down your thoughts, you are tagging them, allowing the brain to prioritize certain ideas while letting others fade into the background. It is a way of telling your mind exactly what to focus on, helping to quiet the background noise of a busy life. Listen for a moment to the imagined sound of a pen gliding across a page, the soft, rhythmic scritch-scratch of ink meeting fiber. It is a meditative sound, a steady pulse that mirrors the calming of your breath. As you write, imagine that you are clearing the cache of your mind, much like a computer might clear its temporary memory to run more smoothly. We often carry open loops in our heads, unfinished tasks, half-formed worries, or lingering questions that consume a surprising amount of mental energy. By externalizing these thoughts, you close those loops. You give the brain permission to stop holding on to them so tightly, which immediately lowers the underlying hum of anxiety that so often clouds our thinking. Science supports this feeling of relief. Research into expressive writing has shown that the habit of writing down one's thoughts and feelings can significantly improve working memory capacity. Your working memory is the workbench of the mind. It is where you hold and manipulate information in real time. When the workbench is cluttered with unresolved emotions or nagging reminders, there is less room for creative problem-solving or deep learning. By clearing the workbench through journaling, you are literally making more room for intelligence to flourish. You are creating a capacious, tidy environment where new ideas can take root and grow. As the last sentence is finished and the pen is set aside, the mind feels lighter, more organized, and ready for the next phase of the morning. The internal workspace is clear, the focus is sharp, and the internal rhythms are set. But the brain does not exist in isolation. It is deeply intertwined with the physical vessel that carries it. Having settled the thoughts within, it is now time to invite the rest of the body into the day's rhythm. We leave the stillness of the desk now, moving from the quietude of the written word to the invigorating flow of physical movement, preparing to wake the brain through the very muscles of the body. As we step away from the desk, our thoughts now organized and written down, we turn our attention to the physical vessel of the mind. There is a beautiful symbiotic relationship between the movement of the body and the clarity of the intellect. It is often thought that the brain is a solitary worker, humming away in its dark, quiet chamber, but it is deeply influenced by the rhythm of our steps and the stretch of our muscles. When we move, we are not just conditioning our hearts or our limbs. We are literally fertilizing the garden of our thoughts. Within the architecture of your brain, there is a remarkable protein that scientists have come to call miracle grow for the mind. Its technical name is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. This protein is one of the most important molecules for brain health and intelligence. When you engage in aerobic exercise, even something as simple and gentle as a slow, steady walk or a series of rhythmic stretches, your body begins to increase the production of BDNF, It acts as a nutrient-rich fertilizer, supporting the survival of your existing neurons and encouraging the growth of new ones. It strengthens the synapses, those tiny invisible bridges where information travels from one cell to another, ensuring that the pathways of your memory remain robust and clear. Imagine for a moment the sensation of a gentle walk in the early hours of the day. The air is cool and still, and the ground feels solid beneath your feet. With every step, you are sending a signal to your biology that it is time to flourish. This movement triggers a cascade of physical changes that benefit the mind. Short bursts of movement, even just 10 or 15 minutes of activity, can increase blood flow to the brain by up to 20%. This surge of circulation acts like a refreshing tide, carrying vital oxygen and glucose directly to the prefrontal cortex, the area of your brain responsible for focus, logic, and complex problem solving. As you move, imagine this oxygen-rich blood flowing upward, saturating the tissues of your brain and clearing away the mental fog that can sometimes linger after waking. It is as if you are opening a window in a quiet, lived-in room, letting in a fresh breeze that revitalizes everything it touches. You might feel a subtle warmth spreading through your shoulders, a release of tension in your neck, and a sense of lightness in your chest. This isn't about intensity or strain. It is about the soft, persistent flow of energy. Even a simple stretch, reaching your arms toward the ceiling and feeling the lengthening of your spine, helps to reset your nervous system and prepare your cognitive gears for the tasks ahead. This physical awakening creates a unique state of readiness. The brain, now nourished by increased blood flow and fortified by the release of BDNF, becomes more receptive to new information. The miracle grow has been applied. The soil of the mind is rich and moist, and the environment is perfectly primed for deep, focused work. Having awakened the body and oxygenated the intellect, a natural transition begins to occur. The restlessness of the morning fades into a calm, steady alertness. It is the perfect moment to transition from the movement of the limbs to the quiet stillness of the soul, moving from the path of the walk to the path of the written word as we settle into the restorative and strengthening habit of deep reading. With the body now quiet and the mind oxygenated, we find ourselves in a space of stillness. Imagine yourself settling into a comfortable chair, the kind that seems to hold you just right. In this quiet moment, you reach for a book. Feel the weight of it in your hands, the solid, reassuring presence of bound paper. There is a specific, gentle sound as you turn a page, a soft rustle that signals a transition into another world. In our modern lives, we often consume information in fragments. We skim through digital screens, our eyes darting in quick, jagged patterns, searching for keywords and immediate answers. This digital skimming is a useful tool, but it is different from the act of deep reading. When we commit to a long-form story or a complex piece of prose, we are engaging in a form of mental exercise that is both restorative and transformative. Scientific studies have shown that reading fiction, in particular, has a profound effect on the brain's architecture. As you follow the journey of a character, your brain begins to mirror their experiences. Researchers have found that deep reading increases connectivity in the left temporal cortex. This is the area of your brain associated with language, but also with sensory receptivity. It is a remarkable phenomenon. As you read about a character running through a forest or feeling the chill of a winter wind, the neurons in your brain fire as if you were physically there. The brain doesn't just process the information, it simulates it, weaving the story into your own neural tapestry. This immersive quality of reading is what builds cognitive stamina. In a world of constant interruptions, the ability to focus on a single complex task for an extended period is a precious skill. Each chapter you finish, each intricate plot point you follow, strengthens your mind's ability to resist distraction. It is like a slow, steady pulse of concentration that calms the nervous system while sharpening the intellect. You are teaching your brain to be patient, to find joy in the unfolding of a thought, rather than the instant gratification of a notification. As you sit with your book, imagine the words flowing like a quiet stream into the reservoir of your mind. There is no rush. There is only the rhythm of the sentences and the steady expansion of your understanding. This practice of deep reading creates a bridge between your world and the vast, infinite landscapes of human imagination. It prepares the mind for even greater challenges, for the intricate puzzles of communication and the beauty of diverse perspectives. As we linger in this state of focused calm, we might find ourselves curious about the very tools we use to build these stories, the words themselves. The brain's capacity for language is not limited to the familiar sounds of our birth. It is a flexible, ever-growing garden. Just as deep reading opens new pathways in the temporal cortex, the act of stepping into an entirely different linguistic world, it offers its own unique set of rewards for the resting mind. We move now from the comfort of a familiar story to the gentle, rewarding challenge of the unknown, exploring how the brain adapts and grows when it encounters the music of a new language. When we step into the world of a new language, we aren't just learning new labels for the objects around us. We are physically altering the landscape of our minds. Scientists have observed that individuals who speak more than one language often possess a higher density of gray matter. Think of gray matter as the dense forest of neurons where the real work of thinking happens. This increased density is particularly evident in the areas of the brain responsible for attention and executive function. The parts of your mind that help you stay focused, switch between tasks, and make calm, reasoned decisions. It is as if the brain, in its wisdom, adds more pathways and more processing power to handle the beautiful complexity of two different systems of communication. Imagine for a moment the quiet satisfaction of encountering a new word. It is like finding a small, intricate puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit into the familiar slots of your native tongue. Perhaps this new word describes a feeling or a sunset in a way your own language never could. In that moment of discovery, your brain is bridging two different ways of perceiving reality. You're learning to see the world through a different lens, realizing that every concept has multiple names, and every name carries its own unique history and weight. This mental flexibility, the ability to dance between these different worlds, is a profound exercise for the resting mind. It encourages a sense of openness, a realization that there are many ways to describe the same human experience. This exercise does more than just broaden our horizons. It builds what researchers call a cognitive reserve. You can think of this as a deep, hidden reservoir of mental resilience. By challenging the brain to navigate different grammatical structures and vocabularies, we are strengthening its core, making it more robust against the passage of time. It has been found that the habit of language learning is one of the most effective ways to delay the onset of age-related cognitive decline. It keeps the mind supple and agile, ensuring that the gears of thought continue to turn smoothly. Even as the years pass, it is a quiet, enduring gift you give to your future self, wrapped in the gentle study of the present moment. As you drift closer to sleep, consider that every new word you have ever learned is a tiny spark of light in the map of your mind. But learning is not only about the intake of information, it is also about the clarity of our understanding. To truly master a new concept, whether it is a foreign verb or a complex scientific principle, we must be able to distill it down to its very essence. This brings us to a beautiful method of deepening our knowledge, a way to ensure that what we have learned is not just memorized, but truly understood. We move now from the complexity of many languages to the elegance of simplicity, exploring a technique used by some of the world's greatest thinkers to turn the difficult into the clear. There is a quiet power in simplicity. We often think that being smart means knowing the longest words or the most intricate formulas, but true mastery often looks much different. It looks like clarity. There was a physicist named Richard Feynman who was known as the Great Explainer. He believed that if you couldn't explain a concept to a beginner or even a child, then you didn't truly understand it yourself. This approach, now known as the Feynman technique, is a beautiful way to polish the mirror of your own mind. It asks us to take the most complex ideas, the ones that feel heavy and tangled, and slowly, patiently unwrap them until only the core remains. When we engage in this practice, we tap into what psychologists call the protege effect. This is a fascinating phenomenon where the brain actually changes its processing power based on our intentions. Studies have shown that when a person learns information with the expectation that they will have to teach it to someone else, they learn it far more effectively than if they were just learning it for themselves. It is as if the brain, in its quiet wisdom, recognizes the responsibility of sharing knowledge. It begins to organize the information into a more logical, cohesive structure. It filters out the noise and focuses on the essential truths, creating a mental map that is both sturdy and clear. Imagine yourself sitting in a comfortable chair, perhaps by a window where the light is soft and golden. In front of you is a listener, a child with wide, curious eyes, who knows nothing of the topic you are considering. To help them understand, you cannot use jargon or hide behind complicated definitions. You must find the heartbeat of the idea. You must use metaphors that breathe and analogies that feel familiar. In this process of simplifying, you aren't losing the depth of the subject, you are discovering it. There is a profound beauty in a simple explanation. It is like a clear bell ringing in a quiet room, resonant and true. As you mentally explain this concept, You might find yourself pausing. You might realize that a certain part of the story doesn't quite connect to the next. This is a vital moment in the science of learning. Explaining a concept out loud, even if you're only speaking to the stillness of your own room, forces your brain to identify gaps in its own logic. When we only think about a subject, our minds can gloss over the fuzzy parts, convincing us that we understand more than we do. But the act of vocalizing, of turning thought into sound, acts as a diagnostic tool. It reveals exactly where your understanding is thin, allowing you to go back and strengthen those specific threads of knowledge. It is a gentle, honest way to build a foundation of intelligence that is truly your own. Take a slow, deep breath. Now, feel the cool air enter your lungs and the warmth as you let it go. Your mind is a peaceful place, capable of great clarity and deep understanding. You're learning that being smart is not a race or a performance, but a quiet, rhythmic practice of uncovering the truth. As we move from the clarity of explanation into the very engine of learning, we find ourselves standing at the doorway of a different kind of mental energy. It is the spark that starts every journey of discovery. It is the feeling of a question that hasn't been answered yet, a gentle pull toward the unknown that makes every fact we find feel like a hidden treasure. Let us lean into that feeling of wonder as we explore the quiet, driving force of curiosity. As we sit here in the quiet, let your mind wander back to a moment when you felt a sudden, gentle itch of a question. Perhaps you were looking at the moon and wondered why it always shows us the same face. Or maybe you were listening to a song and couldn't quite remember the name of the artist. That feeling, that soft, persistent pull toward an answer, is one of the most powerful tools your brain possesses. It is the spark of curiosity, and it is far more than just a passing thought. It is a physical state of readiness that prepares your mind to grow. Psychologists often refer to this as the information gap theory. It suggests that curiosity isn't just a personality trait, but a biological response to a void in our knowledge. When we realize there is something we don't know, it creates a small, manageable sense of deprivation, like a puzzle with a single missing piece. Our brains are naturally inclined to seek out that piece to restore a sense of harmony and completeness. In the stillness of your rest, think of your curiosity, not as a hunger, but as a quiet invitation to explore a new room in the mansion of your mind. When you become curious about a topic, something remarkable happens deep within your brain. Your reward system, specifically the pathways fueled by the neurotransmitter dopamine, begins to stir. This is the same chemical associated with the pleasure of a good meal or a warm embrace. But in the context of learning, dopamine acts like a gentle, golden highlighter. It signals to the brain that the information it is about to receive is valuable, important, and worth keeping. Because the dopamine is already flowing while you are seeking the answer, the information that eventually fills the gap is woven much more deeply into the fabric of your memory. It's as if curiosity opens the doors and windows of the mind, allowing the fresh air of new knowledge to circulate and settle into every corner. Science has shown that when we are in a state of high curiosity, we don't just remember the answer to the specific question we were asking. We also become better at absorbing other unrelated information that we encounter along the way. Your brain becomes a soft sponge, ready to soak up the world. We have all experienced that tip of the tongue sensation, the feeling that a name or a fact is just behind a curtain in the mind, almost within reach, but not quite. It is a soft, persistent mystery. While it can feel slightly elusive, that very state of almost knowing is when your brain is most elastic and most receptive. When you finally find the answer, there is a profound sense of satisfaction, a quiet aha that echoes through your nervous system. That relief is the brain's way of rewarding you for closing the gap, making that fact nearly impossible to forget. It is perhaps because of this deep engagement that curiosity has been shown in many long-term studies to be a more reliable predictor of academic and life success than IQ alone. While raw intelligence is like the horsepower of an engine, curiosity is the fuel and the steering wheel. A hungry mind, one that consistently asks how and why, will eventually travel much further than a mind that sits still, no matter how powerful it may be. Curiosity is the great equalizer. It is a quiet, steady flame that keeps the process of growth alive, year after year, well into our later lives. Take another slow, rhythmic breath. Feel the way your curiosity has brought you here, to this moment of quiet learning. You are nurturing your mind simply by being open to the wonders of the world. But once we have found the answer, once the initial spark of curiosity has been satisfied, we encounter a new phase of the journey. Finding a fact is like finding a beautiful, smooth stone on a beach. Keeping it, making it a permanent part of our collection, requires a different kind of gentle effort. As we drift a little deeper into the landscape of the mind, we will explore how the brain moves from the excitement of discovery to the quiet, steady work of remembering, and the small, healthy stress that makes a memory stick forever. If finding a fact is like picking up a smooth stone on a beach, then remembering it is like placing that stone in a special, permanent place in your garden. We often think of memory as a recording, like a video that we simply play back when we need it. But the science of the mind tells a much more interesting story. To truly make a piece of information part of who you are, the brain requires a small, gentle amount of effort, a process known as active recall. Think of the last time you tried to learn something new. Perhaps you read a page in a book and then immediately read it again, hoping the words would sink in through repetition. While this feels productive, it is often an illusion of competence. Your brain recognizes the words, so it feels familiar, but it hasn't yet done the work to own them. True learning happens not when we put information into our heads, but when we try to take it out. Active recall is the practice of closing the book, looking away into the quiet shadows of the room, and asking your mind to find that information on its own. It is a moment of reaching back into the silence. In that second or two of searching, there is a very specific kind of mental stress. It isn't the stress of a deadline or a worry. It is more like the healthy tension of a muscle lifting a light, comfortable weight. This desirable difficulty is the signal your brain needs to realize that this specific piece of information is important. When you struggle, just for a moment, to remember a name, a date, or a concept, you are physically changing your brain. This is known as the testing effect. Scientists have discovered that the act of retrieval actually modifies the memory itself. Every time you pull a fact out of your long-term storage and bring it into your conscious mind, the neural pathway leading to that fact becomes thicker, stronger, and more resilient. You are not just checking a file, you are paving a road. The more often you travel that road, the easier it becomes to find the next time, until the path is so well worn that the information feels like a natural part of your own thoughts. Imagine your mind as a vast, dark library. Rereading is like walking past the shelves and nodding at the titles. Active recall is like reaching into the dark, finding the exact book you need, and bringing it into the light of a reading lamp. Each time you do this, the lamp stays lit a little longer, and the book becomes easier to find. It is a quiet, rhythmic exercise that turns the fleeting spark of a new fact into a steady, glowing ember of knowledge. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the weight of your body pressing gently into the mattress. Your brain is a magnificent, living organ that loves to be useful. It is constantly sorting, strengthening, and refining the things you care about. By simply asking yourself to remember, you are giving your mind the tools it needs to build a stronger version of itself. But as powerful as this reaching back is, there is a secret to making it even more effective. It isn't just about the effort of remembering, it is also about the timing. Just as a garden needs water at specific intervals to thrive, your memories need to be refreshed at just the right moments to keep them from fading away into the mist. As you settle deeper into your rest, we can begin to look at the rhythm of the mind, the way we can use time itself to ensure that what we learn today stays with us for a lifetime. As you lie there, perfectly still, it is interesting to think about how time acts upon our thoughts. Much like the tide pulling sand back into the vast, dark ocean, our memories have a natural tendency to drift away if we do not anchor them. In the late 1800s, a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus spent years studying this very phenomenon, seeking to understand why some things stay with us while others vanish like mist in the morning sun. He discovered something both startling and helpful, which we now call the forgetting curve. Ebbinghaus found that the human brain is an incredibly efficient editor. Without a conscious effort to keep a memory alive, we lose nearly 50% of any new information within just 1 hour of hearing it. It is as if the mind is constantly tidying up its halls, sweeping away any details it perceives as temporary or unnecessary to make room for the present moment. But Ebbinghaus also discovered the secret to halting this process, a technique that works in harmony with the brain's natural pace. He found that if we revisit a piece of information just as it is beginning to fade, at the very point where the curve starts to drop, we reset the memory, making it even stronger than it was before. This is known as spaced repetition. Imagine it as a gentle, recurring rhythm. Instead of trying to force a fact into your mind all at once, you simply touch upon it at increasing intervals. You learn something new today and you give it a soft nod of recognition tomorrow. Then you wait a week before checking in on it again. Finally, a month passes and you revisit it one last time. Each time you do this, you are leveraging what scientists call the spacing effect. By spreading out your reviews, you are sending a powerful signal to your subconscious. You are telling your brain that this specific piece of information is not a one-time event, but a permanent part of your landscape. The brain responds by encoding the memory more deeply, weaving it into the very fabric of your long-term storage with much less effort than if you had tried to cram or rush the process. There is a profound peace in this rhythm. One day, 1 week, 1 month. It is a slow, steady heartbeat of learning that respects the way your mind naturally breathes. It removes the pressure to be perfect immediately, allowing you to trust that the intervals of time are doing the heavy lifting for you. You are simply stepping back into the stream of your own knowledge at exactly the right moment to keep the water clear and the path visible. As you feel your breath slowing down, matching the steady pulse of this rhythmic review, you might realize that your mind is becoming more organized, more settled. But for these rhythms of memory to truly take hold, the brain needs more than just the right timing. It needs a sanctuary, a quiet internal environment where it can dive deep into a thought without being pulled back to the surface by the distractions of the outside world. Just as you have created this soft, dark space for your body to rest, your mind thrives when it is given a dedicated space for focus. To truly understand how we learn, we must look at the stillness required for the brain to do its best work and the quiet power of a mind that is allowed to stay in one place for a while. This quiet internal environment is what allows for the practice of deep work, a state where your cognitive faculties are pushed to their limit in a calm, sustained way. Imagine yourself in a perfectly still room where the only sound is the soft rhythm of your own breathing. In this space, there are no pings from a phone, no sudden flashes of light, and no voices calling your name. It is just you and a single, meaningful task. When you allow your mind to settle into this one thing, you are giving it a rare and precious gift. The cost of breaking this stillness is much higher than most of us realize. You might think that checking a quick message or glancing at a notification takes only a few seconds. But the brain does not work like a light switch that can be flipped back and forth instantly. Scientific studies have shown that it takes, on average, 23 minutes and 15 seconds to return to a state of deep focus after a single interruption. Even if the interruption was brief, a residue of that distraction lingers in your mind, occupying a portion of your neural resources and preventing you from fully submerging back into your work. When you do find that uninterrupted stretch of time, you may experience what psychologists call the flow state. It is a beautiful, meditative experience where your sense of self and the passage of time seem to dissolve. You are not forcing the work. Rather, the work seems to be moving through you. In this state, your brain is operating at its peak efficiency, making connections and solving problems with a fluid grace that is impossible to achieve when your attention is fragmented. Many of us try to avoid this fragmentation by multitasking, believing that we are getting more done by doing many things at once. However, The human brain is not physically wired to multitask. Instead, what we are actually doing is context switching, rapidly jumping our attention from one thing to another and back again. This process is incredibly taxing for the prefrontal cortex. It creates a state of mental fatigue that can temporarily lower your functional IQ by as much as 10 points. To put that in perspective, that is a cognitive drop similar to what you might experience after losing a full night of sleep. By trying to do everything at once, we inadvertently make ourselves less capable of doing any one thing well. True intelligence thrives in the quiet gaps between these distractions. It grows in the moments where you commit to a single path and follow it wherever it leads, without the urge to turn back or look away. But as your mind dives deeper into these thoughts, it requires a constant, steady stream of nourishment to keep the gears turning smoothly. Even as you lie here, perfectly still, your brain is working, processing, and maintaining its intricate networks. To do this, it relies on a physical resource so fundamental that we often forget its power. To sustain the heavy lifting of deep thought, the brain looks to the very air you're pulling into your lungs in this moment. Consider for a moment the sheer intensity of the work happening behind your eyes. Though the human brain is relatively small, accounting for only about 2% of your total body weight, it is an incredibly demanding organ. It is, in a sense, the most expensive piece of real estate in your body. To keep its 86 billion neurons firing and its complex networks humming, it requires a staggering 20% of all the oxygen you inhale. Every fifth breath you take is dedicated solely to the preservation of your thoughts, your memories, and your consciousness. It is a constant, hungry consumer of life-giving air, and yet we rarely give our breathing the attention it deserves as a tool for cognitive clarity. Right now, as you listen to my voice, I invite you to simply notice the rhythm of your breath. You don't need to change anything yet. Just observe the cool air entering your nostrils and the warmth as it leaves. There is a profound intelligence in this involuntary act. When we are stressed or rushing through a task, our breathing often becomes shallow and confined to the upper chest. This sends a signal to the brain that we are in a state of fight or flight, which can actually cloud our judgment and narrow our perspective. It creates a subtle internal static that makes it harder to access your highest levels of reasoning. Let's try something together, very slowly, without any effort. Take a deep, gentle breath in. Feeling the air reach the very bottom of your lungs, hold it for just a second in that stillness, and then let it out with a long, slow, effortless sigh. When you breathe deeply, using your diaphragm, that large dome-shaped muscle at the base of your rib cage, you are engaging in a much more efficient form of gas exchange. In the lower lobes of the lungs, where blood flow is most concentrated due to gravity, this deep breath allows for a more thorough transfer of oxygen into your bloodstream and a more effective removal of carbon dioxide. This process does more than just nourish your cells. It physically clears the mental fog that accumulates throughout a busy day. It acts like a fresh breeze blowing through a dusty room, sharpening your processing speed and restoring your ability to think deeply. This simple, rhythmic act also stimulates the vagus nerve, which acts as a direct communication highway between your body and your brain's relaxation centers. By slowing your breath, you are manually overriding your nervous system, sending a physical message to your brain that it is safe to rest, to learn, and to grow. It is in this state of physiological calm, when the brain is well oxygenated and the heart rate is steady, that we are most receptive to new information and most capable of complex, creative understanding. But the brain's intelligence isn't just about how it manages its own internal resources or how it processes the air we breathe. We are not isolated processors working in the dark. Much of our cognitive power is actually dedicated to understanding the world outside of ourselves, specifically the other complex minds that inhabit it. As we settle into this state of physical ease, our brains remain quietly tuned to the frequency of others, using a specialized set of cells to bridge the gap between me and you. This internal machinery of empathy is where our biological needs meet our social nature, leading us into the fascinating realm of social intelligence and the hidden neurons that allow us to learn simply by watching. Deep within the folds of the premotor cortex and the inferior parietal lobule, there exists a remarkable set of cells known as mirror neurons. These neurons act as a silent bridge between your internal world and the world of those around you. What makes them so extraordinary is their dual nature. They fire not only when you perform a specific action, like picking up a warm cup of tea or turning the page of a book, but also when you simply observe someone else doing the exact same thing. It is as if your brain is performing a quiet mental rehearsal of the world, creating an internal reflection of every gesture and movement you witness. This neural mirroring is the biological foundation of empathy. It allows you to feel the weight of another person's movements and the intent behind their actions without ever having to move a muscle yourself. Imagine for a moment the quiet warmth of a deep, meaningful conversation. As you sit in a comfortable chair, perhaps with a city light glowing nearby, you listen to a friend share a story. Your brain isn't just processing the sounds of their words. It is actively simulating their experience. When they smile, your mirror neurons flicker with the same patterns that would create your own smile. This isn't just a social courtesy. It is a sophisticated form of intelligence. By mirroring others, we gain an intuitive understanding of their perspectives, their emotions, and their unspoken thoughts. It is a way of expanding our own consciousness, allowing us to temporarily step outside of our own life and inhabit the logic of another. In this quiet exchange, we are not just sharing information. We are synchronizing our minds. This constant, subtle exchange of perspectives is one of the most powerful exercises for the human mind. Science has observed that individuals who are socially active and engage in frequent, meaningful interactions tend to have significantly higher levels of cognitive flexibility. Cognitive flexibility is the brain's ability to switch between different concepts or to adapt its thinking in response to new, unexpected information. By regularly navigating the complexities of human relationships and different viewpoints, your brain stays agile and supple. It learns that there is barely just one way to see a situation, and this mental nimbleness spills over into every other area of your life, from solving a puzzle to navigating a difficult day. Being smart is not a solitary pursuit. Our intelligence is nurtured by the connections we make and the empathy we extend to others. Every time you seek to truly understand someone else, you are strengthening the neural pathways that allow for complex reasoning and emotional balance. You are teaching your brain to be expansive rather than rigid, to be curious rather than closed. You are building a reservoir of social capital in your own mind, which acts as a buffer against stress and cognitive decline. And it is this very sense of connection, this desire to understand the hidden layers of the people around us, that often leads us to a deeper kind of inquiry about the world itself. When we become comfortable with the idea that there is always more than meets the eye in a conversation, we begin to look at the physical world with that same sense of gentle, persistent curiosity. We stop accepting things at face value and start to peel back the layers of the how and the what. We find ourselves standing at the edge of a question, ready to dive deeper into the root of things, using a tool that is as simple as it is profound. We begin to ask the question that children know so well, the question of why. When we begin to ask why, we are not just seeking a single answer. We are beginning a journey through the layers of the world, much like peeling back the soft petals of a flower to reach the center. This practice, often called the 5 whys technique, is a simple but powerful tool for understanding the root of any situation. Originally developed by Sakichi Toyoda for industrial problem solving, it has become a cornerstone of modern critical thinking. The premise is elegant. By asking why 5 times in succession, you move past the obvious, surface-level symptoms and arrive at the true underlying cause of a phenomenon. It is a way of honoring the complexity of the world, acknowledging that the first answer we find is rarely the whole story. Scientific studies suggest that this process of repetitive questioning specifically stimulates the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain responsible for complex cognitive behavior, personality expression, and decision-making. When you ask why repeatedly, you are training this thalamus area to look for causal links, the invisible threads that connect one event to another, rather than just reacting to what is immediately visible. It turns the brain from a passive observer into an active architect of understanding. By digging deeper, you are physically engaging the most advanced part of your mind to find patterns that others might miss. There is a certain childlike wonder in this habit. Think of a child's natural, persistent curiosity. They don't ask why to be difficult. They ask because every answer reveals a new fascinating layer of the universe. To a child, no detail is too small to be interesting. Why do the leaves change color? Because the trees are preparing for the cold. Why is it getting cold? Because the earth is tilting away from the sun. Why does the earth tilt? Each question is a step deeper into the mystery. When we adopt this habit as adults, we reclaim that sense of wonder. We begin to see that even the most mundane parts of our day, the steam rising from a cup of tea, or the way the light hits the wall, are the result of a beautiful, intricate chain of events. This habit builds what scientists call systems thinking. It is the cognitive ability to see how different parts of a whole interact with one another within a larger environment. Instead of seeing events in isolation, your brain begins to map out a web of connections. You start to understand that a change in one area can ripple through the entire system in unexpected ways. This kind of intelligence is what allows us to navigate complex problems with grace and patience, because we aren't just looking at the problem itself. We are looking at the entire ecosystem that created it. It teaches us that everything is connected, and that by understanding the why of one small thing, we might just understand a little more about the how of everything else. As we follow these logical threads, we realize that the world is built on patterns. Some of these patterns are clear and mechanical, like the gears of a clock, but others are more abstract, felt more than they are seen. We find that the same logic that governs the why of the physical world also governs the beauty of the things that move our souls. We begin to move from the structured, linear inquiry of the mind to the wordless, rhythmic language of the heart. We transition from the why of logic to the how of harmony. As we begin to explore the profound science of music, music is more than just a background for our lives. It is a language that speaks directly to the architecture of the brain, bypassing the need for words to communicate complex emotions and structures. You may have heard of the Mozart effect, a concept that became incredibly popular in the 1990s. The idea suggested that simply listening to classical music could permanently raise a person's IQ. While it's a beautiful thought, the reality is a bit more nuanced. Scientists found that while listening to Mozart might provide a small temporary boost in spatial temporal reasoning, the ability to visualize patterns and manipulate shapes, it doesn't actually make us smarter in the long term just by being a passive observer of the sound. However, the true magic of music happens when we move from being listeners to being creators. While listening to music is like a relaxing walk through a park for the brain, playing an instrument is the equivalent of a full-body, high-intensity workout for the mind. When a musician plays, almost every single area of the brain lights up simultaneously. It requires the precise coordination of the motor cortex to move fingers or breath, the visual cortex to read notes on a page, and the auditory cortex to hear and adjust the pitch and tone in real time. This total brain workout strengthens the connections between the two hemispheres of the brain, particularly in the corpus callosum, the bridge that allows information to travel back and forth. Because of this, people with musical training often have higher levels of executive function and better problem-solving skills, as their brains are more efficient at routing information through multiple pathways. Think for a moment about the soft hum of a melody. Underneath the beauty of a song lies a rigid, elegant structure of mathematics. Rhythm is a series of fractions. Harmony is the relationship between different frequencies of vibration. When you engage with music, your brain is constantly performing lightning-fast calculations to predict where the next beat will fall or how a chord will resolve. This habit of pattern recognition is one of the highest forms of intelligence. It teaches the brain to find order in chaos and beauty in repetition. This engagement physically changes the brain through neuroplasticity. In those who practice music, the auditory cortex, the part of the brain that processes sound becomes more dense and sensitive. They can often pick out a single voice in a crowded room more easily than others. Similarly, the motor cortex grows more refined, creating a level of finger dexterity and hand-eye coordination that is truly remarkable. These changes aren't just for professional musicians. Even learning a few simple chords on a guitar or piano as an adult can trigger these protective, strengthening effects in the brain's gray matter. As we sit in the stillness, perhaps imagining the gentle vibration of a cello or the light tap of a piano key, we realize that our bodies are fine-tuned instruments themselves. The rhythms we hear outside are echoed by the rhythms inside, the steady beat of the heart, the rise and fall of the lungs. But the brain's symphony doesn't end at the base of the skull. It extends downward, following the long, winding path of the nervous system into the very core of our being. We are beginning to understand that the mind is not just contained within our heads. To truly understand our intelligence, we must look further down, past the chest, and into the quiet, busy world of the second brain that lives within the gut. The brain in your head is the conductor, but it has a powerful, quiet partner located much further down, a hidden network known as the enteric nervous system. This is a complex web of over 100 million neurons that lines your digestive tract, from the esophagus to the end of the line. It is so sophisticated and so independent that scientists often call it our second brain. While this second brain doesn't write poetry or solve complex equations in the way your prefrontal cortex does, it is constantly communicating with the mind, sending a steady stream of data through a massive, winding highway called the vagus nerve. This gut-brain axis is a two-way street, a constant conversation of chemical and electrical signals that influences everything from your appetite to your deepest emotions and your ability to concentrate. One of the most surprising facts about this internal world is that about 90% of your body's serotonin is produced right there in your gut. We often think of serotonin as a brain chemical, the neurotransmitter that regulates our mood, our sleep, and our capacity for learning. But the vast majority of it actually lives in the walls of the digestive system. When this system is in balance, your brain receives the steady, calming signals it needs to stay focused and resilient. This is why a gut feeling is more than just a metaphor. It is your second brain sensing a subtle shift in your internal chemistry and alerting your consciousness to take notice. When you feel a sense of butterflies or a heavy heart, you are feeling the physical manifestation of this deep neural connection. Think for a moment about the sensation of a settled, healthy stomach. When you are well nourished and your digestion is at peace, there is a quiet sense of lightness and ease that spreads upward. This physical comfort clears the mental fog, allowing the gears of your cognitive processing to turn smoothly and without friction. When the gut is happy, the mind is free to explore, to imagine, and to rest. This harmony is maintained by a vast, invisible garden of trillions of microbes known as the microbiome. These tiny helpers are essential to our intelligence. They break down nutrients that the brain needs to function and even produce vitamins that protect our neural pathways. In recent years, researchers have begun to identify psychobiotics, specific strains of beneficial bacteria that, when thriving in the gut, have been shown to significantly lower levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. By quieting the chemical markers of stress at their source, these microbes help to improve memory retention, sharpen attention, and foster emotional stability. It is a beautiful realization that by tending to the garden within us, we are directly cultivating the clarity of our own minds. We are beginning to see that the intelligence of the body is inseparable from the intelligence of the mind. Our internal ecosystem requires the same care, balance, and patience as any landscape in the natural world. And just as we find peace when our internal garden is at rest, we find a unique restorative strength when we step outside and connect with the larger world around us. The rhythms of the gut and the brain are deeply influenced by the environment we inhabit, leading us to look toward the trees and the open sky to find the next piece of the puzzle in our quest for a quiet, capable mind. As we step out from the internal landscape of the gut, we find ourselves in the vast, green world that surrounds us, where the air feels a little cooler and the light filters softly through the canopy. There is a profound connection between the stillness of the trees and the clarity of our own thoughts. A relationship that scientists call attention restoration theory. In our modern lives, we spend so much of our energy on what is known as directed attention, the intense, exhausting focus required to navigate traffic, respond to emails, or solve complex problems. This type of attention is a finite resource. It drains our mental battery, leaving us feeling fatigued, irritable, and unable to concentrate. But when we step into nature, a different kind of mental process takes over. Nature provides what researchers call soft fascination. Think of the way your eyes track the movement of a cloud, or the way you watch the ripples on the surface of a pond. These things capture our interest without requiring any effort. They don't demand a response or a decision. In this state of soft fascination, the directed attention part of your brain finally gets to rest. It is as if the prefrontal cortex, the hard-working manager of your mind, is allowed to step away from its desk and simply breathe. Listen closely to the sound of the wind as it moves through the leaves of a tall oak or maple. It is a complex, layered sound, a gentle, rhythmic shushing that mimics the white noise our brains find so inherently soothing. As you walk through a forest or even a small park, your eyes are greeted by fractals. These are repeating, self-similar patterns found in the branching of trees, the veins of a leaf, and the petals of a flower. Our brains are evolutionarily hardwired to process these natural geometries with incredible ease. Unlike the harsh, straight lines of a city street or the flickering pixels of a screen, fractals are visually efficient. Looking at them actually lowers our physiological stress levels, slowing the heart rate and quieting the nervous system's alarm bells. The restorative power of the natural world is so potent that you don't even need to be physically present in a forest to feel its effects. A fascinating study revealed that simply looking at a picture of a flowering green roof for just 40 seconds was enough to significantly improve a person's focus on a subsequent task. This brief micro break in nature, even a digital one, allows the brain to reset its cognitive gears. It suggests that our need for the natural world is deeply embedded in our biology. Our gray matter craves the sight of green. As we linger in this quiet, natural space, we realize that nature doesn't just restore our focus, it changes the way our thoughts flow. In the woods, there is no rush, no deadline, and no constant stream of information. There is only the slow, steady growth of the earth. This lack of external demand creates a unique kind of mental space. It is a transition from the complexity of the world into a state of quietude that we often try to avoid in our daily lives. We are moving from the rich, restorative stimulation of the trees into a territory that many find uncomfortable, yet is essential for the highest forms of intelligence, the quiet, open expanse of an idle mind. By allowing the world to go still, we prepare ourselves to discover the hidden power found in the moments when we have nothing at all to do. In our modern world, we have become experts at avoiding boredom. At the first hint of a quiet moment, standing in a line, waiting for a kettle to boil, or sitting in a park, we instinctively reach for our phones. We fill every microsecond of our lives with a stream of digital information, fearing the silence that comes when there is nothing to occupy our attention. But science suggests that in our quest to stay constantly entertained, we may be starving our brains of the very environment they need to reach their highest potential. When we allow ourselves to be truly idle, a fascinating shift occurs within our gray matter. For a long time, scientists believed that when the brain wasn't focused on a specific task, it simply turned down its energy consumption and went into a resting state. However, brain imaging has revealed the opposite. When you stop focusing on the outside world and let your mind wander, a specific circuit called the default mode network, or the DMN, flickers to life. This network is actually more active when you are doing nothing than when you are performing a complex math problem or following a recipe. Think of the default mode network as the brain's internal workshop, while the focused, task-positive part of your brain is like a spotlight, bright, narrow, and intense. The DMN is like a soft, warm glow that illuminates the entire room. It is in this state of mental wandering that your brain begins to perform its most essential behind-the-scenes work. It starts to connect distant ideas, weaving together memories from years ago with a problem you encountered this morning. This is the seat of creativity and self-reflection. When we are bored, our brains aren't empty. They are busy searching for meaning, building our sense of self, and rehearsing future scenarios. This is why many of history's greatest scientific breakthroughs and artistic inspirations didn't happen at a desk or under the pressure of a deadline. They occurred during moments of low-level activities that require just enough physical engagement to keep the body busy while leaving the mind free to roam. Archimedes famously found the principle of displacement while stepping into a bath. Isaac Newton's insights into gravity were nurtured during long, solitary walks through an orchard. These moments of strategic boredom allowed their default mode networks to synthesize information in ways that a focused, stressed mind never could. To practice strategic boredom is to give yourself permission to be still. It means occasionally putting away the phone and the podcasts and simply sitting with your own thoughts. At first, this might feel uncomfortable. You might feel a sense of restlessness or an itch to check a notification. But if you sit through that initial wave of discomfort, something beautiful happens. The mental noise begins to settle, much like sediment sinking to the bottom of a clear lake. Your thoughts become more fluid, more expansive. You might find a solution to a nagging problem drifting into your consciousness without effort, or a forgotten memory might surface, bringing with it a sudden quiet realization. As you lie there now, let your mind wander where it will. There is no right or wrong place for it to go. Whether it drifts toward a childhood home, a dream for the future, or the simple sensation of the air against your skin, trust that your brain is doing exactly what it needs to do. It is sorting, filing, and connecting. This state of idle wandering is not a waste of time. It is the very foundation of wisdom and insight. However, as these wandering thoughts begin to take shape, drifting from the abstract into something more concrete, we often find ourselves wanting to capture them. There is a specific kind of magic that happens when we take a thought from the internal expanse of the mind and give it a physical presence in the world. We transition from the quiet internal landscape of the DMN to the tactile grounding rhythm of the hand. As the mind settles on a single clear idea, we feel the gentle urge to reach for a pen, moving from the ethereal world of thought into the physical act of creation. Imagine, if you will, the simple, tactile weight of a pen resting between your fingers. There is a specific quiet satisfaction in the way the nib meets the page, a gentle friction that anchors your drifting thoughts into the physical world. While we live in an age of digital speed, where keyboards and screens allow us to record information at the pace of a whisper, there is a profound biological reason to return to the slow, deliberate rhythm of handwriting. When you type, your fingers perform a series of nearly identical movements, a simple press of a standardized key repeated over and over. But when you write by hand, your brain engages in a much more complex neuromuscular symphony. Every letter has its own unique topography, requiring a specific set of fine motor movements and a delicate calibration of pressure. This complexity is not a burden. It is a gift to your memory. Scientists have found that these intricate movements create what is known as a motor memory for the information being recorded. It is as if the act of forming the letters physically carves the knowledge into your mind, leaving a deeper, more permanent neural trace than a digital keystroke ever could. Take a slow, deep breath and picture the tip of a pen moving across a piece of ivory-colored paper. Feel the slight resistance of the grain, the way the ink flows smoothly, and the quiet, rhythmic scratching sound it makes in a still, warm room. This process is inherently slower than typing, and that slowness is exactly why it is so powerful for the brain. Because you cannot possibly write down every single word you hear or think at full speed, your mind is forced to engage in a high-level filtering process. Research has shown that students who take notes by hand consistently perform better on conceptual questions than those who type their notes on a laptop. When we type, we often fall into the trap of verbatim transcription, recording words mindlessly like a machine. But when we write by hand, we are forced to summarize, to paraphrase, and to map out the connections between ideas in real time. We are not just recording information, we are processing it, digesting it, and making it our own. This generative way of learning helps the brain to build a more robust mental model of the subject, ensuring that the knowledge remains accessible and integrated long after the ink has dried. As you lie here, perhaps you can visualize the pages of a journal filled with your own unique script, the soft loops of the letters, the deliberate pauses between sentences. Each stroke is a reflection of your focus, a physical manifestation of your internal intelligence. It is a slow, meditative practice that honors the complexity of your thoughts, turning the act of learning into a craft. But intelligence is not only found in the quiet, linear recording of ideas, it also roams in the dynamic arena of challenge and interaction. Just as the hand learns through the deliberate formation of letters, the mind grows sharper through the elegant patterns of play. We move now from the solitary desk and the stroke of the pen to a different kind of mental engagement, one that involves anticipation, strategy, and the quiet joy of a game well played. In the same way that writing encodes our thoughts, the world of strategy and logic allows us to test them, expanding our mental horizons through the simple, ancient power of the game. Imagine, if you will, a wooden board resting on a low table in a room filled with soft, golden light. On this board, a series of intricate patterns begins to emerge, perhaps the stark black and white stones of a Go match or the carved, regal figures of a chess set. These are more than just pastimes. They are ancient playgrounds for the human spirit, designed to challenge the very architecture of our thinking. When we engage in these strategy games, we are practicing a specific and vital form of cognitive agility known as fluid intelligence. Unlike crystallized intelligence, which is the library of facts and knowledge we accumulate over a lifetime, fluid intelligence is our ability to reason, to identify patterns, and to solve entirely new problems that we have never encountered before. It is the raw, flexible power of the mind to navigate the unknown. And like any capacity of the brain, it flourishes when it is given space to play. Take a slow, quiet breath and picture yourself sitting before such a board. There is no rush, no pressure of a clock, only the silent, elegant geometry of the game. You reach out and touch a piece, feeling its weight and the smooth, cool texture of its surface. As you consider your next move, listen for the quiet, rhythmic click of the piece meeting the board, a small, satisfying sound that echoes in the stillness of the room. In this moment of deep concentration, your brain is performing a magnificent feat of mental simulation. You are not just looking at the pieces as they are. You are seeing them as they might be several steps into the future. You are building a ghostly map of possibilities, testing each path in the sanctuary of your mind before committing to a physical action. This process of look-ahead thinking strengthens the connections between your prefrontal cortex, which handles planning, and your parietal lobes, which manage spatial relationships. As you navigate these mental landscapes, a remarkable physical transformation is occurring deep within the temporal lobes of your brain. Scientific studies have shown that regular engagement in complex strategy games can actually increase the volume of the hippocampus. This small, seahorse-shaped structure is the heart of your memory system and your ability to navigate through space. By constantly mapping out positions and remembering the long-term consequences of specific patterns, you are effectively providing a workout for the hippocampus, encouraging the growth of new neural density. It is a comforting thought to realize that as you enjoy the quiet puzzles of a game, you are physically expanding your brain's capacity to remember and to learn, making the library of your mind both larger and more resilient. This habit of strategic play teaches us that intelligence is not a static trait, but a dynamic flow, a way of engaging with the world's complexity with curiosity and calm. It allows us to see the big picture while still honoring the smallest detail. But as the mind grows more adept at these intricate simulations, it also learns the value of the intervals between them. Just as a game requires a period of rest after the final piece is placed, the brain benefits from moving from the high-level stimulation of strategy into a state of profound, unadorned stillness. We begin to transition now, moving away from the external patterns on the board and the mental simulations of the future, turning our gaze inward. We leave behind the doing of the game and move toward the being of the present moment, finding a different kind of strength in the quietude of a mind that has learned how to simply be still. From the quiet focus of a strategy game, we move now into an even deeper layer of stillness, the practice of meditation. It is often described as a journey inward, a way to find a sanctuary within the self. But modern neuroscience reveals that it is also a physical restructuring of the very vessel of your consciousness. Scientific research has demonstrated that consistent meditation does much more than just calm the nerves. It physically alters the architecture of the brain in ways that are both measurable and profound. Long-term practitioners often show a significant increase in the thickness of the prefrontal cortex. This is the area of the brain located right behind your forehead, acting as the sophisticated command center for high-level decision-making, complex planning, and perhaps most importantly, your ability to sustain attention. Imagine this area of your brain growing stronger and more resilient, like a garden being meticulously tended in the silence of the morning. It is a comforting thought to realize that by simply sitting in stillness, you're nourishing the parts of yourself that help you navigate the complexities of life with clarity and grace. You are thickening the very fibers of your focus, making your mind a more stable and peaceful place to inhabit. As you listen to the soft cadence of my voice, you might find yourself naturally gravitating toward the sensation of your own breath. Think of the breath as an anchor, a soft, tethered leash that keeps you connected to the present moment, even as your thoughts attempt to drift. If a thought arises, perhaps a memory of the day or a stray concern about tomorrow, simply acknowledge it without any sense of judgment. See it as a light, wispy cloud passing through a vast, clear sky. You do not need to follow the cloud, and you do not need to hold on to it. You simply watch it drift across the horizon of your mind, returning your focus to the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest. While the prefrontal cortex grows and strengthens through this practice, another part of the brain undergoes a different kind of transformation. The amygdala, often referred to as the brain's fear center, is the ancient structure responsible for our fight or flight responses and the processing of stress and anxiety. Remarkable studies using brain imaging have shown that regular meditation can actually cause the amygdala to shrink in size. As this area becomes less dense and less reactive, your baseline for stress begins to shift downward. You may find that situations which once felt overwhelming now seem manageable, viewed from a place of quiet emotional intelligence rather than reactive fear. This physical reduction in the fear center allows the calm, rational influence of the prefrontal cortex to take the lead, creating a harmonious internal environment where you can rest deeply and think clearly. This state of mindful stillness serves as a beautiful bridge, a transition from the active analytical engagement of the day to the restorative depths of true rest. It prepares the mind to let go of its grip on the external world, allowing the cognitive gears to slow down and cool. And just as meditation provides a conscious pause in the stream of your thoughts, there is another form of rest that offers a profound reset for the brain, a brief intentional dip into the waters of sleep that can sharpen the mind in ways that hours of wakefulness cannot. As we settle deeper into this quiet space, we move from the stillness of the breath toward the restorative power of the short, purposeful rest, known as the nap. We begin to feel the heavy, pleasant pull of a momentary slumber, a quiet interval designed to consolidate our memories and refresh our spirit. Imagine a soft, heavy blanket being pulled slowly over your senses. This is the essence of the power nap, a brief, intentional dip into the subconscious that acts as a profound reset for your cognitive faculties. As you lie here, perhaps feeling the gentle pull of your own rest, it is interesting to consider how even a few minutes of closed eyes can dramatically shift the landscape of your mind. While we often think of sleep as a long overnight journey, the brain is remarkably responsive to shorter intervals of stillness. Science suggests that a short nap lasting roughly 20 minutes provides a significant boost to your alertness and motor skills. This specific duration is often called the sweet spot of napping. By keeping the rest brief, you allow the brain to enter the lighter stages of sleep, those initial phases where the mind begins to detach from the external world without descending into the deeper, slow wave cycles. By staying in these lighter stages, you avoid the heavy, disorienting fog known as sleep inertia. You have likely felt this before, that groggy, confused sensation that occurs when you wake up from a nap that lasted just a little too long. By taming the rest to about 20 minutes, you bypass that fog, waking up instead with a sense of renewed clarity, as if the dusty windows of your perception have been wiped clean. It is a gentle reset button for the brain, allowing the neural circuits that have been firing all day to cool down and stabilize. The effectiveness of this practice is not just anecdotal. It is backed by some of the most rigorous environments imaginable. In a landmark study conducted by NASA on tired long-haul pilots, researchers discovered that a focused 26-minute nap improved pilot performance by 34% and overall alertness by 54%. Even in these high-stakes, high-pressure situations, the simple act of allowing the brain to go offline for less than half an hour resulted in a massive surge in cognitive efficiency. It serves as a reminder that rest is not a sign of weakness or a waste of time, but a fundamental requirement for high-level intelligence and precision. As you listen, you might feel a pleasant heaviness in your limbs, a sensation of sinking deeper into your mattress or chair. This physical relaxation is the perfect accompaniment to the mental work occurring during a nap. While you are in this state of quietude, your brain is busy behind the scenes, performing a task known as memory consolidation. The hippocampus, that curved structure deep within the temporal lobe, begins to sort through the fragments of information you've gathered throughout the day. It identifies what is important, strengthens those connections, and begins the process of moving that information into long-term storage. It is as if a diligent librarian is working in the quiet hours, filing away books and tidying the shelves so that everything is in its proper place when you return. This brief interval of slumber allows the brain to weave together new facts with old memories, often leading to a sense of aha when you wake up, a sudden solution to a problem that seemed insurmountable just an hour before. It is a moment of profound internal harmony, where the noise of the world is silenced so the music of the mind can be heard. As we appreciate the restorative power of this momentary slumber and the way it sharpens our mental edges, we can also look at the physical elements that allow our bodies to reach these states of deep relaxation in the first place. Just as a nap resets the mind from the outside in, there are certain minerals acting within our very cells that help to quiet the internal chatter of the nervous system from the inside out. One such element is magnesium, a quiet hero of our biology, often called the relaxation mineral. It works silently within our muscles and nerves to usher in a state of true, uninterrupted peace, preparing the body for the deep, restorative work that follows the initial stages of rest. As we settle further into this quiet space, let's consider the humble and profound role of magnesium, that quiet hero of our biology we mentioned moments ago. This essential mineral is often referred to by scientists and nutritionists as the relaxation mineral, and the reasons for this title are written into the very chemistry of our cells. Within the intricate landscape of your body, magnesium acts as a master conductor, facilitating over 300 different enzymatic reactions. These reactions are the silent engines of your metabolism, the architects of your DNA, and perhaps most importantly for us right now, the regulators of your nervous system. Imagine, for a moment, the microscopic world inside your brain. Information travels across gaps between neurons via chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Magnesium sits at the gates of these pathways, acting as a gentle sentry. It specifically helps to regulate neurotransmitters that send calming signals to the brain. One of the most significant of these is G, a neurotransmitter that serves as the nervous system's primary brake. When magnesium binds to GABA receptors, it helps to quiet the electrical activity in the brain, much like a soft hand placed on a vibrating string, bringing the hum of a busy mind to a steady, peaceful stillness. As you breathe slowly, you can almost feel this mineral-driven relaxation spreading through your limbs. While calcium is responsible for the contraction and work of your muscles, magnesium is the element that allows them to finally let go. It is the chemical signal for release. Think of the tension you might be holding in your shoulders, the small, tired muscles around your eyes, or the tightness in your jaw. As magnesium does its work, these fibers begin to lengthen and soften. The physical body becomes a heavy, comfortable anchor, allowing the mind to drift without the distraction of physical restlessness. When our internal stores of magnesium are low, the brain can feel as though it is trying to navigate through a thick, gray mist. This is what we often call brain fog. Researchers have found that a deficiency in this mineral is closely linked to a lack of mental clarity and a significant difficulty in concentrating. Without enough magnesium to facilitate energy production within the brain's mitochondria, our thoughts can feel sluggish, as if the cognitive gears are grinding without enough oil. By maintaining this balance, we ensure that the mind remains clear, cool, and ready to process information with ease. This internal chemical quieting is the foundation upon which a truly restorative night is built. It prepares the soil of the mind for the seeds of memory and reflection. However, even as the body softens and the nervous system settles into a lower gear, the conscious mind sometimes lingers on the events of the day. As we move from the physical silence of our cells into the deeper stages of the evening, we can begin to look at the habits that help us unload the mental weight we've carried since morning. Just as magnesium clears the chemical clutter, there is a simple practice of reflection that can clear the cache of our daily worries, closing the loops of our thoughts, and inviting a final profound sense of completion before we surrender to sleep. As you lie there, feeling the weight of your body sink deeper into the mattress, perhaps you've noticed how the mind has a peculiar way of clinging to the things left undone. Even when the room is silent and your eyes are closed, a small voice might whisper about a forgotten email, a bill to be paid, or a conversation that didn't quite reach its conclusion. This isn't a flaw in your design. It is a deeply rooted psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect, named after the psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who first observed it in the 1920s. This effect describes the brain's tendency to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks much more vividly than those we have finished. To the brain, an uncompleted task is like an open circuit, a small hum of electricity that refuses to go quiet. Zeigarnik first noticed this in a busy restaurant, where she saw that waiters could remember incredibly complex orders with perfect accuracy as long as the bill remained unpaid. But the moment the transaction was complete, the memory of the order vanished from their minds almost instantly. When we carry open loops into the evening, our brain treats them like those unpaid bills. It keeps the cognitive tabs open, maintaining a low level of mental tension that can lead to nighttime worry or a restless, shallow sleep. It is as if a part of your mind is staying awake to guard these unfinished thoughts, preventing you from fully descending into the restorative depths you need. There is a simple, gentle way to signal to your brain that it is safe to let go. By engaging in a brief evening review, taking a few moments to write down a to-do list for the following day, you are performing a powerful act of mental hygiene. When you transfer these tasks from the fluid voice of your thoughts onto a physical piece of paper or a digital list, you are effectively closing the loops. You are providing your brain with a placeholder, a trusted external storage system that allows the prefrontal cortex to stop its constant monitoring. Research shows that people who take 5 minutes to write down a specific list of tomorrow's tasks fall asleep significantly faster than those who don't. You are telling your mind, I have a plan. The information is safe. You can stop holding this for me now. Once these loops are closed and the analytical mind is satisfied, we can transition from the logic of doing to the warmth of being. This is the perfect moment for a practice of gratitude. As you breathe slowly, try to identify 3 small things from your day that brought a sense of peace or satisfaction. It doesn't have to be a grand achievement. Perhaps it was the way the light hit a leaf, the taste of a warm tea, or a kind word from a stranger. When we consciously focus on gratitude in the quiet of the evening, we trigger a subtle but profound shift in our neurochemistry. This practice has been shown to increase the production of dopamine and serotonin, the brain's natural feel-good chemicals. Dopamine provides a gentle sense of reward and contentment, while serotonin helps to stabilize our mood and serves as a precursor to melatonin, the hormone that governs our sleep-wake cycle. By bathing the brain in these positive neurotransmitters just before sleep, we are effectively rewiring our neural pathways to prioritize safety and calm over stress and vigilance. We are training the brain to look for the light. As these thoughts of gratitude settle into your mind like soft embers, your conscious work for the day is truly finished. You have cleared the mental cache, stilled the chemical chatter, and closed the loops of your worries. The you that navigates the waking world is stepping back now, handing over the keys to the deeper, more ancient parts of your biology. While your awareness begins to drift into the velvet shadows of sleep, a different kind of intelligence is preparing to wake up. Deep within the architecture of your skull, a hidden system is waiting for the signal to begin its most vital work, a nightly ritual of restoration that no waking effort can replicate. As your breath becomes a slow, rhythmic tide, the brain prepares to wash itself clean, readying the inner landscape for the mysteries of the night. As you sink deeper into your mattress, letting the weight of the day fall away completely, your brain begins a process that is as essential as it is beautiful. While you were awake, your brain was incredibly busy, firing neurons, processing sights and sounds, and managing every breath and heartbeat. This constant activity creates metabolic waste, microscopic leftovers that accumulate throughout the day. In any other part of your body, the lymphatic system would carry this waste away, but the brain is a protected sanctuary. It requires its own specialized cleaning service, one that only truly finds its rhythm when the world goes dark and your eyes are closed. This is the glymphatic system, a hidden network of channels that acts as the brain's private restorative tide. Scientists have discovered something truly remarkable about what happens when you enter the deepest stages of sleep. As your brain waves lengthen and your body becomes still, the physical structure of your brain actually changes to accommodate this cleaning. The space between your brain cells expands, increasing by as much as 60%. Imagine a crowded city street suddenly widening, creating a clear, open path where there was once congestion. This expansion allows the cerebrospinal fluid, the clear, life-sustaining liquid that surrounds your brain and spinal cord, to flow much more freely through the neural tissue. It is like a gentle, rhythmic tide washing through the intricate valleys and peaks of your mind, reaching into the smallest crevices to refresh and renew. This fluid acts as a biological detergent, flushing out the day's accumulation of proteins and metabolic byproducts. One of the most important substances it clears is a protein called beta amyloid. In the waking world, the buildup of these proteins can interfere with communication between neurons. But during these quiet hours of rest, your brain is actively sweeping them away. This cleaning process is not just a background task. It is 10 times more active during sleep than it is when you are awake. It is a profound reminder that sleep is not a state of nothingness, but a period of intense restorative maintenance. Your brain is essentially taking itself to a spa, ensuring that every neuron is clean, nourished, and ready to function at its peak when the sun rises. As you feel the cool, steady rhythm of your breathing, imagine this internal tide continuing its work. The physical debris of the day is being swept away, leaving behind a clear, quiet space within your mind. You are being restored at a cellular level, your internal landscape becoming pristine and balanced. But as the physical environment is cleansed, the brain's focus begins to shift. Once the plumbing of the glymphatic system has done its heavy lifting, your mind prepares for a different kind of organization. You are drifting now, moving away from the deep, dreamless waves of physical restoration and toward the vibrant, flickering world of REM sleep. Here, the focus shifts from cleaning the cells to connecting the stories of your life, weaving the facts you've gathered into the deep tapestry of your memory. As the physical cleaning of the glymphatic system settles into its steady, quiet rhythm, your brain begins to shift its focus. You are drifting now, moving away from the deep, dreamless waves of physical restoration and toward the vibrant, flickering world of REM sleep. This is the stage known as rapid eye movement, and it is here that your mind truly becomes an architect, a storyteller, and a master problem solver. While your body remains perfectly still and heavy against the mattress, your brain activity is looking remarkably similar to when you are wide awake and deeply engaged in a task. But this work is internal, and it is beautiful. Scientists have discovered that during REM sleep, the brain performs a vital function called integration. It is not enough to simply store a new fact. The brain must decide where that fact belongs in the larger library of your experiences. It takes the information you've gathered today, perhaps the science of neuroplasticity, the benefits of morning light, or the importance of hydration, and it begins to introduce those new ideas to your older, established memories. It looks for commonalities, building bridges between things that might seem entirely unrelated. This is why you may wake up in the morning with the sudden, clear answer to a problem that felt impossible the night before. These aha moments are the direct result of your brain's nocturnal labor, weaving together disparate threads until the pattern finally makes sense. Think of your dreams as a internal sandbox. In this state, the rigid rules of logic and physics are softened, allowing your mind to experiment. The strange creative logic of dreams is actually your brain's way of testing scenarios and connections. It is rehearsing social interactions, simulating potential challenges, and playing with ideas in ways that your conscious mind might never consider. In this laboratory of the subconscious, your brain is free to be as imaginative as it needs to be to find a path forward. It is a form of cognitive cross-pollination, where a memory of a childhood garden might suddenly provide the framework for understanding a complex system at work. Beyond problem solving, REM sleep is essential for your emotional well-being. It is during these hours that the emotional sting is often removed from difficult memories. Your brain processes the feelings of the day, filing them away in a way that allows you to wake up feeling more balanced and resilient. It is a quiet, steady sorting of the soul, ensuring that the lessons of your life are kept, but the weight of them is lessened. As you feel yourself sinking deeper into this creative, restorative state, you can sense the immense value of the rest you are giving yourself. Every habit we have touched upon tonight, from the way you breathe to the way you learn, is being reinforced right now. Your mind is taking the facts and insights we've explored and is beginning to knit them into the structure of your intellect. You are not just sleeping, you are evolving. And as this tapestry of memory becomes richer and more complex, you are preparing for the final gentle realization of how these small moments of care add up to a lifetime of growth. Your breath is slow, your mind is at play, and you are perfectly safe in this quiet, intelligent space. As you drift closer to the edge of sleep, it is helpful to see how all these pieces, the morning sunlight, the cool water, the deliberate movement, and the restorative stillness, fit together into a single, cohesive whole. We often think of intelligence as a fixed trait, something we are born with and cannot change. But the science of the mind tells a much more hopeful and beautiful story. Your intellect is not a stone. It is a garden that grows and changes according to how it is tended. This is the power of the compounding interest of habits. Just as a small amount of money grows significantly over time through interest, small 1% improvements in your daily routine compound into massive shifts in your cognitive ability over months and years. You do not need to revolutionize your life in a single day. You only need to offer your brain these small, consistent moments of care, and the natural laws of biology will do the rest. Take a final, slow breath with me now, deep into your chest, and a long, sighing exhale out. Feel the quiet rhythm of your heart as it slows to match the stillness of the room. In this moment of perfect calm, you can let go of the pressure to achieve, to perform, or to know. you can embrace the realization that being truly smart is simply a gentle, lifelong practice of care. It is the act of being kind to your own biology. It is choosing to nourish yourself, choosing to listen to your body's need for rest, and choosing to remain open to the quiet wonder of the world. It is a steady commitment to your own well-being that pays dividends in clarity, peace, and wisdom as the years go by. Tonight, in this quiet space, you have journeyed through the inner workings of your own mind and the vast, elegant systems of the world. You have learned over 150 facts ranging from the microscopic dance of your synapses and the chemical signals of your gut to the grand rhythmic cycles of the sun and the stars. And the most beautiful part of this process is that your conscious work is now finished. Even as your thoughts become soft and hazy, your brain is already beginning to weave these new threads of information into the tapestry of your long-term memory. It is organizing, filing, and connecting everything you have heard tonight, making these truths a permanent part of your inner landscape. You are becoming wiser and more capable even as you drift into the silence. As the last echoes of these words fade, let the stillness wrap around you like a soft, heavy blanket. Your mind is a sanctuary of growth, a place of infinite potential that is constantly renewing itself. You have given it everything it needs to flourish. Now, allow yourself to sink into the deep, intelligent rest you have earned. There is no more to learn tonight and no more to remember. There is only the peace of being, the weight of your limbs, and the steady flow of your breath. Sleep deeply, dream vividly, and wake with a mind that is clear and refreshed. Your journey of growth will continue in the morning, but for now, there is only the quiet. I wish you a night of profound and restorative rest. Good night.